Hey everybody, it's Mark Ling here, and I've got with me today a good friend of mine. His name's Rob Jones. Now, when I first met Rob, he was smashing it online actually already as an affiliate marketer, meaning he earns commissions promoting other people's products, doing this through Facebook ads and doing really well. And he's actually taught thousands of students around the world to achieve huge success at that. However, he'd never ventured into a different form of marketing, which he's started trying out actually really recently, where he's running video ads, not on Facebook, on another network. He'll talk about that in a moment, following a method that was taught to him by one of his students. So here's what happened. Rob's student, who started with his program only a year ago, ended up making money from Facebook ads and then going across to another platform called YouTube and running video ads, and ended up blowing it up, changing the strategy slightly from the Facebook one and doing really well. And then Rob went ahead and asked Keegan, hey, can I try this too? Went ahead and did extremely well with it. And so he's going to be talking about that today. And also he's going to be covering something that's really important, because one of the big reasons why he succeeded is because of his 3 mindsets of success. So he followed Keegan's system along with his 3 mindsets of success and had those fundamentally is one of the biggest reasons why he's managed to make between $5,000 and $20,000 every single day now in affiliate commissions following the system. So anyway, welcome along, Rob.
Hey, Mark, thanks for inviting me.
Thanks for being here. I really appreciate you joining us and talking about your 3 mindsets of success. And please, like, also, I'm really keen to know, your background of how this all came about.
Yeah, it's interesting. We did Facebook for so long, and our students have made a ton of money on Facebook, tens of millions of dollars from Gary's system, original system years ago, my business partner. And the thing that stood out to me, so everybody's been talking about YouTube for like the last year or two, about how much money there's to be made, and it's different than Facebook and all this stuff. And I never gotten into it. And actually what really sparked my interest in this was when one of our students, Chris, who you've spoken to as well, reached out about Keegan. And he said, Keegan is having these crazy results. But the thing that stood out to me was one of Keegan's students who was making videos with like robot voices. And he made like 30K a day or something. And that was the thing that I was like, there's no way that would work. And he showed me the screenshot of his 30, when he shot up to 30K like in one day. Like he was going along here making a few thousand, and he was from Afghanistan. English is a second or third language, immigrant from an immigrant family, and it was a crazy story. And so it was one of those things that sounded so unbelievable that I wanted to try it out myself. So what happened was we met with Keegan. Keegan's a cool dude. We hit it off immediately. And we decided to make like a little beta testers group. And Chris kind of put it together. He invited a bunch of sort of beginners who could try this out, and we could make sure this all worked. And so this is my first time ever running YouTube ads. And I just followed Keegan's system. And he kind of laid it out roughly for us, not in a super organized way, but we're in this little group and we're all kind of playing around with it and learning. And his system really did most of the heavy lifting. Like, as far as systems for making money online, it's about as simple as you can imagine. But just like any kind of business or any kind of venture in life, you're going to have things you have to learn, and you're going to have stuff that you're going to screw up. And so we're here in this group, and our goal is obviously for everybody in the group to try and get everybody to be successful and see if the system will work for just ordinary people, because I've been doing this for years. And so Keegan taught the method, and then I started running my ads. And it's really pretty fun because like the tools make it easy. So like the tech side of things is like super easy, like way easier than Facebook ever was. And so like making a video, that part is like super easy because the tools kind of do it for you. And the voices are robot voices instead of human voices. So you don't need to be on camera. You don't need to have a, like a microphone or like I don't even normally do interviews and stuff. Like I'd prefer not to be on camera and, I never take photos and stuff. So like for me, the idea of being able to create videos, but you don't have to actually be in the video. You don't have to do any kind of like really intensive video edit. You don't need any like video software on your computer. And you can literally just copy a script and paste it into the software and it will generate like, 80% of the video, and the rest is just kind of tweaking a few things, making sure the timing is just right. That's easy. And so like to take a video and run an ad is like super fast, and so really all it comes down to is just trying that a few times and doing that over and over again until you find a video that hits it. And Keegan had laid out a plan for how he comes up with the scripts. And that part, I just followed that exactly. I didn't want to come in and sort of like try to change things. I just wanted to do it exactly the way that Keegan does it and see if it works, and that was, so my whole plan was to just like see how well his system works exactly as he's done it. Cause he's been doing this for, 8 months or a year or something. And he's really got it dialed in,
Can I stop you just for a quick sec and just say, because you've talked to me just before the call about your 3 mindsets of success. And one of the reasons why you straight away, when you wanted to learn something, you were like, right, I want to surround myself with, I want to be in a group of other people doing the same thing. And I want to be mentored or coached by the guy that's doing the thing the best. And I want him at the head of this group. That was instantly your way of thinking. And you were also telling me your number one fundamental. You told me it was surround yourself with successful people who are successful at the thing you want to be successful at. So, I thought it was a good time to just bring up that key point because you just do it without thinking. Surround yourself with successful people. That's one of your 3 mindsets of success, and you just do it all the time. And I think that's one of the reasons why you did well. I know, carry on with the story because
it's funny. I had when I first got into internet marketing, I went to an event and at the time, Mike Koenigs from Traffic Geyser. I interviewed him on like a little short interview just to try to get out of my comfort zone because someone recommended that and I didn't know anybody. And his advice was find somebody that does exactly what you want to do and then follow that. And he says, don't try to change it because it like, to be the kind of person that had that kind of ego that thinks that you could come in with an expert and like redo what they've already proven. First, just do it exactly the way they do it, have some success, and then you can experiment. And that's kind of been something that stuck with me, and it's like, if I'm going to come in and do YouTube ads, I don't want to go and try to reinvent the wheel. I want to go like Keegan's the guy that figured this out, and so my mindset was use his system and make it work. And then if that works, I can start experimenting with stuff. But there were a lot of people in our group who, there's a handful of people who like second guessed everything, and like said, oh, well, what if I test this? What if I test this? What if I test this? And especially with the kind of entrepreneur's mindset, we all do this, we go in and then you want to tweak things and do it your own way.
Just this will look cooler or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
My friend who's in the fitness niche, like he is always, one day we went to the gym with a bunch of internet marketers, and they all wanted to know what he did because he's super fit and he's got followers and stuff. And I remember the day differently from when we went. And I said, remember that day we went? I said, we all did like your system. And he goes, no, you didn't. None of you did my system. Because every single one of you took it and said, no, let me do it this way. And then let me do it this way. And they all second guessed it. And I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's a little tangent, but yeah, I think that's very important. Surrounding yourself with people who have already achieved what it is you want to achieve. So we started running ads, and there were people in the group that had like tiny little budgets. There were some guys in the group from like South America, and like one guy, Francisco, he had so many hurdles as far as like payments. Like he had to get paid through Payoneer, which is kind of a pain in the neck international payment service to connect to his bank. Like he couldn't get paid quickly. There's extra delays, and his budget was tiny. And so he was starting off very slowly, but he was very patient and he stuck with it, and anytime he ran into, he had a lot of heart, and he's a young guy. I'm not sure how old he is, but he's got to be maybe he's like 19 or 20, something like that. He's pretty young. But anytime he would get into he'd run into an obstacle, he never gave up. He'd always come to the group and ask some advice, and he'd be very creative about, sorry, the dog's barking in the back. Can you hear that?
That's all right. Yeah.
Okay.
I've got a dog
Okay.
too.
Just checking. And he just never gave up. And that's kind of like the second principle that I think is very important, the second mindset principle, which is like that kind of dogged persistence, never giving up, almost to the point of being stubborn, and there are several members in the group who they weren't creative types. They weren't technical, and so they would run into, like, they wouldn't be very creative with coming up with a script for a video or whatever, but they didn't give up, and it's a unique system in that you don't need to be really that creative. And you definitely don't need to be technical, because it's really easy from that perspective. But just the fact that when they would hit an obstacle, they would say, okay, well, how do I get around this? And then they would go, if you're surrounding yourself with people who've achieved what you want to achieve, then it's easier to reach out and find a solution to that. If there's already kind of a roadmap for you. So that was probably the next principle, the next important thing. And so, all right, so I started running my ads, and I live in Bali, and my credit card is in the US. And Facebook and Google are different. Like Facebook, when you're running ads, scaling up isn't like an easy thing. Like there's sort of hoops that you have to jump through, and you can't scale up too fast, or like you might lose your ROI, or you might, there's limits to how much you can spend per day. And it seems like Google doesn't really have that. In fact, the really weird thing that they do, they have a little like notification in your account. Like as soon as you've been running an ad for a few days, like there's a little thing that says limited by budget. And I think it's like a marketing ploy just to get you to spend more money. Whereas Facebook, you're worried about scaling up. You look at your budget, and no matter what your budget is, it will recommend that you triple it like every day. And so I'd say here's a little piece of advice: is don't listen to that, because that's going to tell you to scale up faster than you should. But actually scaling up campaigns in Google Ads, it's easy. Like they don't, either you scale it up and it keeps converting or it doesn't, but there's no issue with, can you turn the dial? Like you can always turn the dial up. And as far as I can tell, there's like no limit to how high. Like they'll just keep encouraging you to spend. Like I know when I was spending 20K per day, and then they recommended like 63K or something from it, I was like, okay, just ignore what they're saying, because that's crazy. But like, it's not. So that's one thing.
It's such a big world, isn't it? Though, like, it's not impossible to spend 60K a day. It's just a matter of, you may not want to do that overnight, going from 20, because you could lose a bunch, I guess, if it didn't work out as well.
Well, as I understand it, the types of campaigns that we do, Google does a really good job of optimizing campaigns, but Google needs a little bit of space. Okay, so if I would generally recommend that people don't like tweak things too much every day, all the time, because then Google's going to have to like adjust and relearn. And so if you find so I played around a lot with my budgets. So we entered this contest together as a group, and several of the members in the group had really small budgets, and they're spending very small budgets just because they're afraid to scale up. And they were getting really good profits each day. Like they might spend $100 and then they make $300 or something, and in like at a consistent rate. But they were afraid that if they scaled up, that they would lose it, right? And so for me, having come in, and my budgets are a little bit higher because I've been doing this a while, so I'm not so worried about losing money. And I wanted to show them that it's possible to scale up. So I wanted to kind of like lead by example, because most of the people in the group were like that. Were very afraid to lose the profit that they were coming every day. And so I came in and I started scaling up very quickly. And so my first ad campaign that started working, I think it was weight loss, and like it was a weight loss product. And I started scaling up very quickly to about $7,000, I think, in like 2 or 3 days. And I'm posting my screenshots of my success, my earnings in the group, just to kind of motivate the others. And then I get an email from Google that's like, your ad account has been shut down for suspicious payments. And that freaked me out. Because it's always like, anytime you get an account, they have like this really dark, like crazy sounding language. It's like, you can never, this is final and there's nothing you can do and it's all finished. And so but they have a way that you can appeal it. And so I messaged them back, and I've had experience with Facebook where everybody gets their ad account shut down all the time. And so I didn't freak out. And I knew I didn't do anything wrong. So I messaged and I sent them copies of all my documents and stuff to prove. And I was able to get the account back without any issues. And then I started like advertising again. And the next time I was just really excited to scale up, and I got a campaign that was working. And so I started scaling it up, and like maybe within 4 or 5 days, I got it up to like 20K. And then the ROI basically just, at that point, the ROI just started dropping off. And I think I just scaled up way too fast. And so I think what happened, I kind of got obsessed with just playing around with the budgets each day, because I had an ad that was working, but I wanted to find out how high I could go, because I think there's like a sweet spot for every ad, that there's a volume you get to where you're not going to make any more money. Like at this point, you're making the maximum amount of daily profit on this ad. Because I had this ad I'm running where it'd be like, today I spent, like one day I spent $10,000 and then I made $16,000. So it was like $6,000 profit. And then I doubled the budget to $20,000. And then like I lost like $1,000 the next day. So I was like, okay, I scaled up to
thousands back.
Yeah. So I got really obsessed with being like, what's a good approach for figuring out where that sweet spot is? And I got really busy with running business stuff. My dog's scraping on the door really loud. I don't know if it's picking up on the microphone. But in the process of doing this over several months, I had a video that was working really well. And I'm just going to let the dog in so she stops scraping.
It's all good.
Come on. Come on. They're going to keep scraping in there forever. So all I did was just tweak my budgets and give it time, and it had a little bit of patience. And I learned a lot about how Google optimizes ads, and they optimize them pretty much automatically for you, right? And so I did a lot of research, I asked around a lot, and then I started experimenting a lot with my ads. And I found that, so what happens is you give Google a target. This is how much I want to spend for like a purchase. Like, so maybe I want to spend $50, and then you know that if I make a sale, I'm going to make on average $100, right? So you know you're going to double your money. So you give them a target, and Google does a really good job of trying to hit that target. And so I just experimented with, sorry, you watch the poodle. I just experimented with the budgets and stuff. And literally, when you get an ad working, you could just sit there turning the dial a little bit up, wait, and see if it keeps falling, if the profit goes up. And in the beginning, I was paying a lot of attention to ROI and just like these little numbers here on the videos and stuff.
ROI for people is return on investment. So if you spend $100 and make 180 back, your return on investment is 80% or $80. That's ROI. Yeah. So I in the beginning, I really paid close attention to percentages and stuff. But then over time, I realized, look, I don't care what the percentage is. I want to make the most like money in a day. It's more important to me that I make the maximum amount of take home profit in a day than that I get I don't care if I make 500% ROI or 2% ROI. I want to make more money than yesterday. Right. And so that was my focus. And so, can I just quickly summarize that for somebody, because it might have gone over their head just a little bit. What you mean by that is, if somebody is spending $50 a day and making 150 back, yeah, you're making 200% ROI. You're making not just 100% back, you're making double your money back. That's great. But you would rather spend $2,000 in a day and make $3,000 back, even if it's only a 50% ROI, because you've made $1,000. You've made more overall money. That's what you would rather.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to think, of course, within your budget. But as far as this business goes, you just need enough budget to cover your ad spend for like one pay period, right? So if you're spending the money for a week and then that's when you get paid back from the affiliate network, you just need enough money to cover your ad spend for that week. And if it's on a credit card, it's really not that big a deal, because my credit card has plenty of limit to cover the ad spend. So yeah, I'm just trying to like let Google do all the heavy lifting for me of optimizing and finding the pockets of traffic. And so I would slowly dial up the knob a little bit, more traffic, more budget, and then see what would come in, turn it up, see what would come in. And then eventually what happens is that you start making less money and then you turn it down a little bit, and you kind of get into a sweet spot. And I had one single video that probably ran for about 3 months before it kind of, eventually it started to like peter off. And now I think that video ad is only making me, a few $100 a day. And like, I may just have to give up on that one, but like eventually an ad will stop working. Anyway, that's kind of a tangent. It's just, for me, I think it's important that you focus on how much money do you make in a day, as opposed to just, because what you'll see is when you get into this kind of business of running ads, people talk about, oh, I made 100%, I made 200% ROI. And it sets this really high bar that it seems is impossible to reach, that you have to be like perfect.
It's harder to reach on every ad spend, I guess.
Yeah, but it gives you a lot of pressure that you have to be perfect and you have to be really good at every aspect. And what I realized in this process was that video that was doing so well for me is not like an amazing video. It's a good video, it just follows the script. It's a decent video. And come here. Sorry, she's real needy. It's like a decent script. It follows Keegan's system. I didn't put a lot of work into it, but it's effective, and then my actual ROI was only like 40 or 50%. A lot of these guys are talking about 80%, 100%, 150%. And I didn't really care that much about having like the perfect script that was like so good that it was going to like do amazing. I just wanted to see if the system would work for me and Google could do all the work for me in it. And it really is effective if you let the kind of machine learning algorithm, whatever, like system work for you.
So what's the third mindset of success? Is this related to it, or is this leading into it? Like, I'm interested to know also, because we've covered surrounding yourself with successful people, the stubborn resistance. You've talked a lot about all of these different types of tests that you've been running right now.
Yeah, I think the third thing that's really important is sort of how you look at failure. Like, I think a lot of people, when they come into something, especially in making money online, this kind of thing, they just try a few things and then they give up. Oh, I tried it. I did it. I tried it. I failed. It didn't work. And that's not really the way that I approach this. The way that I approach this is failure is more like a learning experience, right? And so like your first try, I think it's better if you go in expecting that it's not going to work at first, and that you're going to have to like learn a few things and tweak a few things on the way. And each time that you fail is actually a learning experience. You could go back and improve incrementally, and make it, even if you're just improving like a little bit each time, then it's impossible to fail, because eventually you're going to succeed, right? So like, excuse me. Go outside.
It's all right. My dog will be exactly the same. So if failure is a learning experience, then any test that anybody runs for an ad, spending a little bit of budget, it's the price of learning. So
yeah,
if someone gets lucky and within their first $300, they've already made 600 back, and then they're away and they're always doing well, that's all well and good. But if somebody else, say they make a bunch of mistakes or just things get unlucky for whatever reason, and they take $1,500 before they have a successful campaign. Then you probably haven't lost the whole 1,500. You've probably also made sales along the way. But let's say you've spent your first 1,500 and it's a loss. $1,500, that's the price of learning. That's worth it if you've now got a successful campaign that you can keep on making $200 a day with. You would have paid that back off within a week. So I think that's a good way to look at it. This is my education. I'm happy to spend because it's taking action.
Yeah, because if that's what it costs, exactly. So if you're testing a lot, like if you're persistent and you're trying a lot of things, like in this case, all you have to do is keep trying videos. Like the rest of the process is all the same. It's all pretty straightforward and simple, and it's easy enough. Like for that campaign that lasted me 3 months, when I went to run that campaign, I decided I want to find a successful ad as quickly as I can with this. And so I said, how can I do that? Well, I came up with 10 variations on that ad, 10 scripts, and then I plugged them in.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And it was actually only, so the whole script was maybe like 3 variations of the script. But then the very first part of it, which is really the key part that makes the biggest difference, I think, like the first sentence or two, I had variations of that. So in total, I had like 10, actually maybe 11 variations or something. And I stuck all of those in. And you can very quickly see which one is working and which one's not. And so the ones that didn't, hit at all, I just turned them off. But like, that's how I honed in on like number 5 out of those 10 or 11, whatever it was, is the one that worked, right? Sorry, 1 second. Hey, babe, I'm gonna call you out the dogs, please. You can have the dogs. Sorry. Yeah, so it was number 5 out of all those that hit, and then I turned the others off. And so, but because of the system, like all of those videos, they all made a little bit of money. So it's not like I lost all of the money or anything, but it was like an investment of my time as well as like the information that I was going to get from running those ads. And for me, it was worth it. You don't necessarily have to do it that way. Like depending on your budget, what you want to spend, you could start with 1 video, see if it works, and then test another one if that one's not working. Like you can space it out based on your budget. But the idea is just that each thing that you test is going to teach you something, right? You're going to know something that's going to get you towards this goal over here, which is where you're trying to go. And for me, it's as long as you're not going to give up and you're going to keep learning from each test that you do, you're going to get there no matter what, So that's kind of I think that's an important mindset.
It's really important. So you don't get knocked down by anything that doesn't work according to plan. You just got to quickly ask yourself, what have I learned from this? Find the silver lining, find the learning. And I'll give you one big clue to the learning. When it comes to ads, I think, I honestly believe about 75% of the time, it'll be something within the first, like you said, 1 to 2 sentences, before someone clicks skip ad, before someone just, the right prospect clicks skip ad. There's a problem if the right person isn't engaged enough to keep watching, because you could have the perfect, quite often people have really good, next, the 50 seconds after the first 10 seconds is quite often a lot better. People just sometimes just don't hook people in well enough early enough. So that's just a bit of a tip as well from me. And I think you'd probably agree, I'm guessing, that, often you're actually a lot closer than you think. It's just a matter of learning those lessons. Or when you get your successful ad, eventually, maybe it's the script was right after all. It was simply something on the page itself, maybe a headline a little different, or maybe just that first image at the start of your video. So yeah, if you didn't test those things though, if you didn't have that failure as a learning experience mindset, if you're easily knocked down, then I don't think you would have got to where you got to, Rob. Not just today with the YouTube stuff, but even in the past, you've had you seem to have repeated levels of success as an internet marketer. And I think that those are really good mindset principles. So I'll just quickly recap before I'll let you carry on and, and sum everything up for people. So number one, surround yourself with successful people. Number two, have stubborn persistence towards your goals. And number three, embrace failure as a learning experience.
Yeah, that's really well put.
Cool. And
yeah, I think if you can follow those three things, then you're going to be pretty well on the way to success. Assuming that you're on the right path, and Keegan has a really, really easy system to get there. But as long as you have those mindsets, I think you'll get there.
Now, Keegan's about to run a workshop, with you coming up. What would you say to people that are either, I'll give you two types of people. There's going to be some people that have already been on the workshop and now they're listening to this interview. And then there are some people, so they're considering maybe joining before the doors close. And then there are other people that haven't seen the workshop yet. So they're watching this and they're going, should I join that free workshop and check out what it's about? So what would you say to each of those people?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's going to be really simply shown, the process. It's more or less three parts to the process. And it'll show you, I kind of ramble on in these stories, but it's a very simple process when it comes down to it. And when you see it, on paper, on a presentation, it's easy to understand. And I think most people can make this work. I think it works for two kinds of people. It works for people that either have like a bit of a budget to work with, or people that maybe they have a smaller budget, but they got like enough hustle, enough heart to make it work. That was a lot of the people in our group. And so if you fall in any of those two categories and you want to kind of like make a change in your life, you want more control in your life, more freedom, and that's something that drives you, that's something that's important to you, then I think this is a path that can give that to you. And we've proven that in our little beta group, where we had 15 people who had 100% of them made at least $500 a day, and like one guy made $1.5 million in like 3 months, like crazy amounts of money. So that proves the system works. But then, so you have a system that works, you have somebody guiding you. Keegan is so good at this. And then you have the rest of the group to help as well. And then you have that kind of like somebody to fall back on if you have problems and you have that right mindset. I think it's a big one. I haven't seen anything like this in my time online. So I think it's a really big opportunity.
No, absolutely. I honestly believe that it's probably the biggest opportunity that I've seen for affiliate marketers in at least the last, probably in the last 15 or 16 years, perhaps back when it was super easy to put up an article and rank in the search engines at number one. That might have been the last time I've seen something as straightforward as this. So that's going back a long way. This is a pretty exciting time to be a YouTube marketer right now, like running video ads, earning affiliate commissions. So I also highly recommend people strongly consider, one, joining the program when it's available. It may not be available by the time you're watching this. The doors are only open for a short length of time. Or two, at the very least, joining the free workshop and finding out a little more and deciding that if it's right for you, then make sure that you are fully informed and you want to be on that workshop. Rob, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for sharing all of your insights with people and your 3 mindsets of success. I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate being on here as well.
All right, everybody, take action with what you learn, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now, everyone.